The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. Slight malfunction there with our new sponsor, Mark, but great to see everybody back on a Wednesday night show. We're going to talk about all things Newcastle United in a second. As you can see, I've been joined by the stat man, Mark, and a couple of Wembley wanderers. Some people want to forget about it. He's got his suit measured, but he's not happy in the bottom corner. We've got Audie, who's back with us, and Simon survived Wembley. She's back. She's smiling. She's going to get stuck into Newcastle United in a minute. So how you doing, guys? You okay?
Good, thank you, mate.
Good, excellent. So we'll get stuck right in a second. Just before we do, a little gentle reminder, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. We'd love you to come on board. We're on about 2,500 subs. We're trying to push to 3,000, so help us get over the line if you can. Smash the button. You won't regret it. 2 live shows, Mondays and this one on Wednesday, as well as pop-up videos and all free Newcastle United chat. We don't charge anybody at the minute for this. It's rough for everybody out there, so we don't want to take any of your pennies. We just want to talk about this club free of charge. And we're live tonight, as always, so feel free to jump in the comments. We've already got somebody, I think, in the comments as well. My favourite handle, we've got the Noob Gamer is there, even at the YouTube, mate. I hope you're going to enjoy some of the chat we're going to get stuck into. But just before we talk about the first topic, obviously, we've got a couple of the Wembley Wanderers on here. Result was absolutely shite, but how was the weekend for the two of you? Simon, start with you first. How was your weekend down in the Big Smoke?
How chivalrous.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think everyone was just in awe, and I don't know if that's why the atmosphere may not have been as good as what we thought it might be, but from traveling down, there was no bother between fans, especially with such a large contingency of Newcastle fans. There was absolutely no bother. The weather was freezing and I'm paying for it, but other than that, I did cry a lot. But it was
so did Audie.
Well, yeah, we lost. I know we lost, but for me, we've got the club back, and that's the main thing. So there's been comments made about, I can't believe people are saying they enjoyed the weekend. God, I've been to Oxford United away where we lost, 5-1 or something horrific. Been to some horrific matches. And I never expected to be at Wembley anytime soon. So, you know what? I'm enjoying it, and it was great. Don't know about you.
Absolutely. Well, Audie, the scenes at Trafalgar Square were incredible, mate. Forget about Sunday for a minute. As Simon says there, everything on the Saturday, we saw all you guys smashing pictures in our chat group, which was absolutely amazing. But what was that like to experience, mate? Just to seeing everybody coming together, that was incredible, man.
It was. I think probably only about 50% of the people who were in Trafalgar Square actually had tickets for the game, which made it even more amazing. Bar people throwing themselves in the fountain in just their pants at 6 o'clock at night when it must have been about 2 degrees or something like that. And the wind chill meant that I had my coat on and my beers were cold, whether they'd been in the fridge or not. I've got to say, the atmosphere seems absolutely brilliant across. I didn't really see any. Once we got to London, I didn't see any confrontation with anyone at all, any bother at all. We went to a few places around King's Cross, then down to Trafalgar Square, then a few more places around Westminster, then a few more places around Canary Wharf, then to my bed, and I've got to say the weekend was absolutely brilliant. It felt great to feel like Newcastle were competing again for something that actually mattered rather than 17th place. And the journey that we've come on, we've all probably got examples of worst games you've been to, but I remember walking out January 2022, João Pedro got a late equaliser against Watford, and I was like, that's it, we're down. If we can't beat them and they're falling apart, we're down. And the run we've been on since then is pretty incredible. And it was just unfortunate that for that 90 minutes, I didn't feel this. Once we went 1-0 down, I just didn't feel like we were in a game at all. Second half got slightly better than the last 20 minutes of the first half, but it was just a disappointment. It felt like some of the lads gave their worst performance in probably the biggest games of the season, and that's harsh on them, but it's probably something that they'll reflect on as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to look at kind of where we need to change, I think, throughout the episode. But Simon, just on the game for yourself, you mentioned the atmosphere was slightly different, maybe in the ground. I mean, we all saw the flags at the start and the local hero, and it looked like we turned up and the Man United fans were too busy eating their prawn sandwiches by the looks of it. But I mean, it started really well, but it faded away quite quickly. Was that just the goals, or was that maybe just an anticlimax of everything that happened at the weekend, do you think? Or
I think everyone was hungover from Saturday, and I think if we ever went back to Wembley again, people wouldn't do all out Trafalgar Square because it felt like, no offense, but it felt like being in the East Stand.
Yeah,
when I was there, and it was just
controversial.
So I nearly got chucked out of the East Stand for being too noisy. So it was just the only chant people were singing was the Bruno one. No one would do any of I thought we would sing about Atsu because it's not so long ago. It couldn't get anything. We tried to start one on Enquiries and no one was. It was a really, really easy Enquiries chant and no one was joining in. And it was kind of like, okay, there's 4 of us. We'll keep trying. So,
do you think that was the corporate people? There was too many corporate people there, do you think, in amongst all the ticket sales? Do you think there was a bit of that in there? Or?
Well, we know there was some Man United fans in our end because there was 3 who got chucked out when they scored the first goal. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was more. It's hard to gauge. I know people have brought family with them. It's such an amazing experience. People have brought kids that might not normally go. I don't know. Can't put a finger on it, but I don't know if it's the acoustics of the stadium. It just. I've had this conversation with someone who said it's not for the fans to prop the players up, but I think if you read Bruno's interview, I get that, but it's not just your normal Premier League match. It's the cup final.
Yeah,
the players need us. Yeah, and the players need us more than ever. Bruno made it quite clear in that interview how the Leicester game changed everything for him in terms of how the fans were, and I just. Yeah, I mean it's been and done now. We move on. Just from all of us, we weren't all there, so
yeah. I mean, and just on the game as well. Do you echo all these thoughts? Just that we just didn't. The big lads didn't turn up. The big players didn't turn up.
To be honest, some of the big lads haven't turned up for a while. I mean, look at the Liverpool game; it was horrific.
It was
Sorry, be brutal. I still loved it. I mean, we played better with 10 men against Liverpool than we did with 11, and that's saying something. So, just there's 3 key players that I would say have not been doing well. And Callum Wilson, we love him, but what is going on?
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. Absolutely. Just a couple of comments coming into Cohen and Fraser saying some away fans saying now around us too, no flag waving. Really, Man United fans, wankers, and we've got Tifley saying annoying that people behind were saying to sit down. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. As you said there, Simon, it was a special game. Everyone's saying we'll be back again. It's great to feel that positivity, but you've got no defined right to be back in finals. This could be, the first final for years and years and years and years before we sample it again. But there was one person, just to move away from this for a minute, there was one person who didn't seem to be overly upset about the fact we lost the game. I think she might have been out drinking with you already, possibly. That's Amanda Staveley. She come on Talk Sport. Mark, I'll bring you in there just on this one to kick us off. Amanda Staveley went on Talk Sport. Obviously still delirious from the whole atmosphere. And I mean, they love the fans, the ownership. We're seeing Darren Eales in the pub beforehand. And it's great that they get us and they've kind of embraced us and everything else. Not like Ashley and the crew, but Amanda made some really bold claims, Mark. You just want to remind everybody watching what Amanda Staveley said on TalkSport?
Well, I think it's pretty much said in the thumbnail, isn't it? I think they're going to win the League Cup, they're going to win the FA Cup, we're going to win the Premier League, and going to win the Champions League. I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, it's bold claims. If they've got the backing to do it, I think it will take time, but that's the aim, that's the ambition. And to have that, and I've heard it from other clubs. If you go back and look at some other clubs in the past that have gone, we're going to win it within so many years. The one that springs to mind is the Charlton owner who came in and was like, yeah, we're gonna be in the champion, we're gonna get back to the Championship, we're gonna be in the Premier League, and within 5 years we're gonna be solid in the Premier League again. And now he's selling the club, or sold the club, and it's just when owners come in and they don't. It's fine to show ambition, but you've got to have the wherewithal to do it. Newcastle have that, and the owners have got the money to put behind it as time goes by, as you sort of get to grips with the FFP, you bring in more corporate sponsorship deals, that sort of thing. It's there, and I think there'll be some flack for saying all of that, but why not? I think City did it, Chelsea did it, Liverpool have said it 1,000 times, Manchester United have said it. Newcastle are going to be in that pond now with the big boys, and they're not going to go away quickly.
Yeah. Or did you think there's a danger here that she's maybe got a little bit overexcited and she's welcoming all these shit houses to come out? I mean, she possibly was winding up Simon Jordan, because I don't think there's any love lost between those two, is there? But do you think it's a bit of a danger to throw out these kind of serious claims, or do you love it? Do you see the ambition, and as a fan you think, oh, get in, they've got massive plans?
You can't fault the ambition, because we all want to support a football club that is competing for Premier League, Champions League, going to finals, etc., etc. If Man City fans have been told, as they started the 2010-11 season, don't worry, this season you'll win the FA Cup, but in a couple of years 4 or 5 years' time, you'll be competing regularly in the Champions League, and in 10 years' time, you'll be the biggest club in the country, and everyone will be desperate to beat you. I'm sure they would have accepted what was to come along the road for the next 10 years. If we're in that same position, then great, brilliant. Let's hope we do it properly, and we've not got financial investigations that go on for years and years and years that wouldn't cloud for me winning trophies, but would potentially make it as an easy target. And we're an easy enough target as it is because of that. I'm a bit torn about it, if I'm honest, Chris, because we've won absolutely nothing. My dad was 11 last time we won a trophy, and my granddad wasn't even born the last time we won the league, and he's now dead. Yeah. I keep going back. I know how important winning a trophy is, because, like everybody, I mean, you could see it in Dan Burn, like how gutted they were at the end. Even not just in Bruno's reaction was like as a fan or whatever, but you could see how gutted they were that they'd got the final. I think there's a little bit of it. This is it. We're going to win this, and it's going to kick off to another level. And Man United are a proven winning machine. I absolutely despise them. It gives me no joy to compliment Manchester United about anything, but they are a winning machine. Liverpool win trophies. Manchester City win trophies now. Chelsea, over the past 20 years, have won trophies. You need to break that duck. Now, it's not about necessarily how much money you spend. It's not about, Liverpool, that 2005 team, I don't know how much it cost to assemble, but they got loads of luck and they won a trophy. We need a slice of luck. Sean Longstaff squaring that ball across the box. Someone's there to tap it in. We go 1-0 up. Maybe we do go on and win the League Cup final. And maybe we're sat here going, do you know what? I'm absolutely buzzing. Best game of my life. Best day of my life, or whatever. Yeah. And it completely changes everything. Sometimes you need luck. And, Eddie Howe must be absolutely gutted. And he knows he's got to pick them back up for Man City away at the weekend. But I don't think his position is particularly helped by bold claims coming from the owner. I'll give you an example of this. Have anyone heard anything from Arsenal owners in the past 18 months, apart from the Super League apology?
True. That's true, yeah.
And they're going to go on. Does anybody really care? Man United fans were waving their scarves, telling us how much they hated the Glazers and how much they want them out, but they were happy waving the free scarves from the Glazers. I genuinely think that I love how United they were, and I know we should mention it, but other people were there with the ownership out there. Is it the Green Man? At Wembley beforehand, and I think it's great that they're involving themselves in that. Don't get me wrong, I think it's much better given the complete lack of communication we had under the previous ownership from he who shall not be named. But the future of the club does seem to be lots and lots of potential. And I don't think we should heighten expectations anymore, because I'm a little bit worried that the more we heighten expectations, the worse it'll feel if we don't get to them.
Simon,
have the ambition,
yeah.
just don't need to speak about it.
No, I get it. Simon, do you think it's possibly a bit of an experience and a bit of maybe overexcitement by Amanda Staveley? Because I think ever since the ownership's come in, they've been great with the engagement with the fans and stuff, but she doesn't seem to have, as Odie says there, mastered that art of just keeping your cards close to your chest a bit. She loves to throw it out there, and she's so excited about it, and we love that. But as Odie says there, do you think she needs to maybe sharpen up a little bit, be a bit wiser, and just not talk about as much of this stuff as she's doing?
Again, don't get me banned from St. James's, but
never ban you, Simon. Never ban you.
I wonder whether she needs a masterclass from whoever is helping Eddie Howe deal with all the difficult questions, because Eddie Howe handles them with such grace, and he keeps things very close to his chest. He keeps his card close to his chest. I'm dozy. What can I say? Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. So excuse that. So just I think she was excitable, but I do have to say she didn't give specific timelines. So in her defense, she said we're going to win everything. She just didn't say when. And for everything that's happened so far, I do worry about next season. If we don't start the season as we did this season, if we're not in a final next season, there's going to be a lot of people throwing the, I'm really bad with phrases, toys out of prams. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Throwing a wobbler. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. So potentially that might, however, there's that. But I still think, you know what, we're at the beginning of a journey. It's good to have ambition. She hasn't put deadlines on it, so it could be in another 30 years. But we might win it under her tenure. So
true, very true.
So I get it. It's, you don't want to be encouraging the media to goad us for not doing well, because we get enough criticism. Yeah,
Or you made a good point there. Just about Dan Ashworth is a bit more skilled, isn't he, in these kind of interviews? He knows how to give an answer without giving an answer, type of a thing, And if you saw the lead up to the final, obviously me and Mark were in at Wembley. We were watching whatever was on, the TV, and the BBC was short of singing "Come On, You Reds." They were that bad at one point, bigging up Manchester United, and all the mainstream media seem to be the same. I think Ashworth, maybe, as you say, has to be the man who goes in front of the microphones maybe a little bit more going forward. But is that not part of his remit, though? Does he want to just fix on the football side of it? He doesn't want to do too much media stuff. What's your take on that, mate?
I don't know why anyone from the club is speaking to TalkSport. I don't get it. No, I'm being really serious. I don't get it. They are not a sensible news outlet. Why are we communicating?
No.
Steve Bruce used to go on there, and we all know what we think of him.
He did. With Alan Brazil.
Why on earth are we on TalkSport? Why on earth are we on TalkSport? If it was 5 Live and she's in the middle of a sensible interview and she says, look, our goal is to go win the Premier League and win the Champions League, and she doesn't put a deadline on it, great, fantastic. If she's saying it for clicks and whatever else for Simon Jordan and his mates, why are we doing it? We don't need this. And the only other point I was going to make is she did say when her and Madrid took on the management contract or whatever, the oversight contract.
Yeah.
They were told, they'd said, our aim is Premier League and Champions League, to be competing in the Premier League and Champions League, I think within 5 years. I think they said within 5 years or within whatever it was, to be regularly competing in the Premier League and Champions League within a period of time. Now, their contract, I believe, is 12 months rolling as a management group. It's to have control just of management, I believe, is a 12-month rolling contract. They've only got a 10% stake, the two of them, and the Rubens have another 10% stake. Coming out with all these points, to me, is not going to look good if they're not backed up by the people who own 80% of the football club. Yeah. And if you keep going on and on about it, Chelsea, I don't understand how Chelsea are with an FFP. Don't get it. Liverpool are going to spend big in the summer again. Man United are going to spend big in the summer again. Spurs will probably spend money in the summer again. Manchester City will definitely spend money because they seem to have oodles of it and nobody seems to know how much they can spend and how much they can't spend. It is going to get harder and harder. We had an unbelievable opportunity this season to finish in the top 4 because Man United were in disarray the first half of the season. Liverpool looked to be in disarray, and Chelsea seemed to be falling apart at the seams. And all of a sudden now, if it's me, I think our best placed position at the end of this season is 6th because I think Spurs are beyond us, and I think Liverpool are about to come past us. Even though they're still wobbling, I still think they'll come past us. So it's then a question of, do we hang on to those European places? And by saying statements like that, rather than what Ashworth said, which was, we finished top half, it's been a great season. Cup final's a bonus. But we finished top half, it's been a great season. That is the measured approach to take for me to club management. Not giving Simon Jordan what he wants and a load of clicks and hits on to the people coming and listen to his stuff.
But I tend to agree. Mark, just getting your take on this. I mean, the TalkSport, Audie's right. They're like the Sun newspaper of radio shows, aren't they, really? You know, they're looking for that extreme headline to get the clicks and get the likes and everything else. But I think it's a good point as well, raised by Audie. For me, without sounding too harsh, I don't want all talk and no action. You know, for me, I think we missed a trick in the January window. I don't think we had enough bodies. And I think when the suspensions and the injuries came, yes, you can't plan for that. You can't plan for Nick Pope having temporary insanity and picking the ball up 40 yards from goal. You can't plan for Bruno getting a red card. But we know that squad was thin going into that window. And if the Premier League teams weren't going to parlay with us, we should have looked further afield. That's what Dan Ashworth is there to do in his team. We've already seen some articles about apparently the owners want to go big and they've got 6 first-team players in mind and all this kind of stuff. Audie's made a great point there. This season, Liverpool, Chelsea have been horrendous. They've been well off the pace. That will not be the same next season. They will go back and sort themselves out. We need to go big, Mark. Would you agree? And do you think the owners will have watched what happened at Wembley and say, do you know what, this team needs quality? And do you think they'll deliver?
Yeah, I absolutely. Just to go back to your point there about not you know, you can't plan for these things. I would I disagree with you. I think you can plan for the eventuality of injuries and suspensions by having the players in behind them. You know that at some point you're going to get somebody banned for a couple of games because they're going to pick up yellow cards. You can see Joe Linton picking up yellow cards pretty much every week at the moment. Yeah. You know the fire that Bruno has in him. You've seen that in games. So at times he does walk a tightrope. You need to then contemplate the fact that at some point he will get a 2 or 3 game ban.
Yeah. Or a red card again.
Exactly.
Possibly, yeah.
So you've got to have that in mind. I still look at the Shelvey deal as being a poor bit of business by the club for letting him go. Yes, he may never have played again, but at least he gave you an option if the worst happened, and it did. And not only did you lose Bruno, you then lost Willock to injury as well. So it was a double hammer blow. But coming back to the summer, I think Newcastle's plans will be to go big. They're going to have to rebuild the squad. I was looking at some of the data on some of the players earlier on. I think there's 5 or 6 players that are out of contract this summer. There's another 7 that are out of contract next summer. Some of those will probably get extended deals, the likes of Fabian Schär. But there's probably about 16 players in the first team squad now that are either out of contract or will potentially get moved on. So there's a huge bit of sort of rebuild that I think will go on this summer. If that is 6 or 7 first team players and then squad players to come in and give some experience and some youth to then take on the challenge of going into next year. But I think you're going to see huge amounts of business happening, come the January window, come the summer window.
Yeah, just a point on that, Simon, as well. I think you made a good point that if we end up with Europe at the end of this season and we don't heavily invest in this thin squad already, we're going to be even more stretched, aren't we, with European football?
Absolutely. And whilst I'm really happy with where we are, and honestly, it'd be amazing if we're in the top 6, I'm really terrified about if we do end up in Europe because we have no squad. There's not a squad to manage that. We don't have the skills, we don't have the experience, and the fitness levels, we don't have it. So when it comes to the summer, we need to look at the conditioning of our players to see how do we keep them fit, because some of them look exhausted on that pitch.
Definitely.
And we're just in the League Cup and the Premier League. If you look back to, say, Eden Hazard's like one of the best examples of a player. I mean, with Chelsea, he was in the FA Cup, League Cup, Premier League, Champions League, and he played like stupid amount of games plus international. I mean, yes, he is a one-off maybe, but there were a few players with that ability, and we've got a long way to go. So for as much as going back to the original thing about Amanda making those comments, it's got to be a measured response, and we're not ready yet.
Yeah,
I'd love to win. Don't get me wrong, I want to win, but we're not ready. There's so much investment and work needs doing, and we're nowhere near.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a really good point. I mean, moving on to the changes that probably need to be made. I think everyone's quite universally on the same page as a fan base. You know, who you want to change out, obviously, you know, changes up depending on who you're speaking to. But starting with the midfield, Audie, for changes, that there was one player in particular you wanted to talk about. I can see you smiling there. It might be a bit of a controversial one, but you wanted to talk about one of our defenders in particular. You think potentially might need a rest, or maybe he's gone off the boil a little bit, mate. Do you want to start this one off?
I don't know how. I've been trying to judge. Twitter's a dark place, and it's a horrible hole to go down at times. But I've been trying to judge kind of the fan base based on, popular reaction based on certain comments about it. I think Kieran Trippier needs a rest. I don't think that's controversial. I
don't disagree.
I think he's been an unbelievable leader for this group of players through the period that they've gone through since he signed. His set-piece delivery is mixed at the moment. Although the ball that he put on Burns' head for the opportunity on Sunday was a really good ball. We look nowhere near as threatening as Manchester United did when they had set plays. And I think Kieran Trippier is a better free kick taker than Luke Shaw. So either we're not getting the systems right to get at it, or we're not taking advantage of his abilities. But my biggest concern is other teams have started to target him. Against Liverpool, they put Darwin Núñez up against him. They slung balls over the right-hand side, saying, right, Fabian Schär, you come and get this, because if you miss it, it's Núñez against Trippier, and we back him to get in. Man United did it twice to great success. The reason the first goal happened, forget about whether it's a foul by Bruno or not. The reason why the first goal happens is they are petrified of Rashford against Trippier. And Bruno comes over to double team him. The second goal happens because Rashford holds the ball up, Trippier gets sucked in, he plays it off the Weghorst, he turns and he sprints beyond both Trippier and Schär, and then gets played in. Botman is sliding over to cover for the two defenders who are nowhere near Rashford by the time he takes the shot. Now, for me, and it links back to Seamus' point before about squad depth and where we are, if Harrison Ashby isn't Premier League ready, then Javier Manquillo's got to start playing Premier League games, because Kieran Trippier needs a break.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Sorry, Simon, you want to add something there?
Yeah, sorry. So one of the conversations I've had with my friends about Trippier is a couple of games ago, after the World Cup, I felt he came back with an injury because there was a period he wasn't taking the free kicks, he wasn't taking the corners. He just hasn't looked right. And the fact that he wasn't taking, I mean, we had Shaw taking one of the free kicks, and it was quite a good effort, I have to say. But there's something not right, and we've known of players to continue playing with niggles, and they get an injection, they're getting pain relief, etc. And I agree with Audie, like, he needs a rest. He really needs a rest. Yeah, but I would make more changes to the defense as well.
Well, do you know what? We'll stick with you, Simon, for your changes then. I mean, I know the ones I want to do, but tell us what else. Tell us what else you would change in the defense.
Again, so we all love Dan Burn, but I want Targett back this weekend.
I'm with you, 100%.
I just
couldn't agree more.
I don't think I need to explain it. I think everyone can see it. It's just, I mean, Targett is fit. I just think we need to change things up. It's not working.
No, I totally agree. Mark, do you think, for me, Shaw's struggling, I think, because a lot of the goals are going down his side, but maybe it's what Audie's saying about Trippier and Simon's saying about Trippier as well. I'd quite like to see Burn does need a rest. I do agree with Simon. I think him at left back knocks the whole team out of kilt because he's not a left back, and we've got nothing coming down that left hand side. You know, if Maxi's playing there and he does that thing when he tucks inside, tucks outside, tucks inside, tucks outside, wiggles his hips a bit, he hasn't got a left back overlapping him to put a cross in. Targett would surely do that, Mark, wouldn't he? And add that to the side.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this all the way through. As well as Dan Burn has played, you lose something from not having a proper left back who can get forward. Because Targett will do that. We've seen that throughout his career. He's happy to get forward. He can put a ball in the box. He's good at delivery as well. He took corners and free kicks when he played for Aston Villa. He's sure he took them when he was
and
at
Southampton a bit, I think, as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, that gives you another option to be able to change it up a little. And we talked about this on Monday. At some point, Eddie Howe has to look at this and go, I have to change the way that this, because it's not working at the moment. And just doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to get them out of it. It might work once or twice, but we've seen that pretty much that the team has sort of been a little bit found out. They've reached their kind of level, and they're just not able to just switch things up during the game. So I think Eddie Howe has to be bold at this point. I agree, Simon. I think Matty Targett should play. If he's fit enough to play, then he should play. I'm torn on Trippier because I think he's such a good leader. You'd miss him not being in the side. But at the same time, is he too overcompensating for the lack of Almiron's right foot and that he has to overlap? Again, we talked about this on Monday. He has to get up high on the pitch because it's virtually every opportunity the defending side is going to sort of shoot Almiron down on his right-hand side. So he has to cut back, and he's either got to then play the ball back to Trippier or try and play it into the edge of the box. And it's so one-dimensional down that side.
Here's a quick stat, Mark, just from Sunday. Bear with us. So 11 crosses Trippier put in on Sunday, and he only got one on target.
There's an argument that you would say suggests that is that all down to Targett, or is that down to who's in the box? Because for me, Callum Wilson's not making the right runs. I know we're going to come on to the attack in a bit, but he's not making the right runs in those areas. Already you said it before, that ball across from Longstaff in the final. I'm sorry, I want my centre forward gambling at that, and he's just not. He's not anywhere near the.
Callum's getting it later on, mate. You saved that. Callum's getting it later on. God bless him. It was his birthday the other day, Mark. Go easy.
Bless him. But no, I think I'm sort of with you. I think, you know, if Trippier is struggling, bring him out for a game, give him a rest. It's a hell of a game to come out for, given who you're playing at the weekend. But do you know what? It might do him the world of good to almost have this as a free hit. Bring some of the other players in, just let them loose, and then, you know, bring the likes of Trippier back the following week once they've had a bit of a rest. They've got the final out of their system, and then they can come back all guns blazing again.
Yeah, I think for me as well with Trippier, and again it goes down to the lack of creativity in the side as a whole, especially when Bruno isn't there. Everything falls on Trippier, and again I'm trying not to be too judgmental about the owners, but I think in January, again, I'm not trying to slag him off because he couldn't play in the final, but we're going to drop 40 million quid on Anthony Gordon. Why couldn't we drop 50 million quid on a James Maddison who could give us somebody else who could take set pieces and corners and free kicks and things like that? I don't understand where the logic was in that regard, and maybe even a Yuri Tillemans at a knockdown price as well. It all goes back to these weekly wages thing, that they're desperate to keep the weekly wages cap here, but you've got to pay the going rate for the players that are going to improve your squad. Surely, if anybody wants to jump in and agree or disagree with that.
Well, just on that, the FFP situation, we're hamstrung because we haven't got revenue streams in.
Because of Ashley.
So we can't pay more wages because Mike Ashley was getting free advertising and doing deals that suited him, not suited the football club. That's got to be taken into account. On the thing that you've mentioned, I think you put up a back four before, which was Targett, Botman, Burn, Trippier. I'll explain to the person who put up why that won't happen, because Eddie Howe doesn't pick two left-footed centre-halves. He won't do it.
Yeah, that's
won't
fair enough. Because he wants the balance. He wants the right and left balance, doesn't he? That's
and it's the reason why he won't play Miggy on the left and Maxi on the right. It's the reason why he won't do it, because his system, he wants people who can go both ways down either wing. There's a reason why he wanted a right-sided attacking player who could also play with the left foot in the summer, and then Miggy started like a train. If Jack Grealish could start slagging him off again, I'd really appreciate it, because he was class when he did that. And then when he apologised after Boxing Day, he's been
That's when
appalling.
everything's gone wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
someone get Jack drunk quick.
Yeah, I know. Let them win another league title and then see what he says. That just won't happen. My concern is, we don't have depth. I mean, we've talked about this. Who do you play at right back? Ashby, Jacob Murphy? Do you have Manquillo? Because Kraft's out the season. Who do you play at left back? Targett? Do you bring Matt Ritchie back in? Do you bring Dummett back in? Who do you play at centre half? Lascelles? Because I don't want Lascelles against Haaland. Not any day of the week.
No,
so
I don't want Lascelles at all, mate. Lascelles is done for me. Simon, you wanted to add something, I think, to my James Maddison bomb there, because I'm gutted we didn't slay them.
Well, it was more about the Jack Grealish. I'm in Manchester for the match, so I'll getting the Almiron comment back, because I think we need it, and maybe for some of the others. In terms of financial fair play, we are hampered. It's just basic accounting. We will get the revenue in with potential new kits, with sponsorship. We'll have another third sleeve. We'll probably change up the training kit sponsors. So at the moment, we only keep one. Man United are very clever. They've got 2 lots of sponsorship. So the club have taken everything and have done things very wisely. I believe financially they'll have had the right people in to bring in the right revenue, and I think we will get there.
Yeah, I mean, one big thing as well about defence we haven't talked about is Nick Pope will be back at the weekend, won't he, as well? So that's a big thing for the team as well.
Sorry,
Karius did okay.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
No, Karius did okay.
Loris Karius was blameless. There was one moment in the warm-up where a shot went towards him and he spilled it in at the near post, and you had 40,000 people take an intake of breath like, oh, God. And after that, the Casemiro header, he can get someone
he's got no chance for that.
What if Pope comes for that? Nick Pope isn't coming for that. It's on the penalty spot. There's no way it's a brilliant ball from Shaw. Is it offside? The rules on offside have changed so much, I don't know. But I thought, I thought Karius had a decent game. He kept the score down, because towards the end, they looked like they were going to get a third or a fourth or a fifth, and he kept the score down.
Definitely. I was getting Charity Shield flashbacks. Sorry, Simon, you said I felt bad for him because he was getting loads of shit in the media, wasn't he? Unfairly, I thought as well. That was a bit harsh.
No, but I feel bad for him being dropped, because I don't think he deserves to be dropped. He's done really well.
I think Pope will come back in.
Yeah, I get that. And I know everyone's been really sympathetic with Pope for missing it, but he made a stupid mistake. He shouldn't have done that. He's a quality player. Sorry. Don't hate.
No hate on this channel. We're always open for opinions there. But so moving slightly up into the midfield, I guess we've kind of covered the defence. We all agree there's changes that need to be made. I think this whole rock solid defence line has been breached. Maybe a bit easier than it has done. So I think people do need a rest. There is fatigue setting in there. In terms of the midfield, Mark, come to you first on this one. Obviously, Bruno's back. He did burn himself out a bit in the final. I think he started really well. He's been missing for 3 weeks, so he did look like he was struggling a little bit. I mean, I love that tackle he put, and then he turned his ankle. I shit myself when he did that, because I thought, oh my God, he's done himself in. But so Joe Linton and Joe Linton, that is, are probably guaranteed starters. Do you take anybody out? Do you think Longstaff looks tired? Does he need a rest, or is Willock coming back in? Are you doing anything to the midfield? Are you bringing Gordon in as a midfield 3? What are you looking to do, if anything, in the midfield?
I think. Well, I mean, the hope is that Bruno's ankle isn't an issue. He looked, tender when he came off. So hopefully that's just a quick turnaround for him, because he's had plenty of time off over the last couple of weeks, so he should be fresh. I think, of the other two, I think if Willock's fit to start, you start him. And I think you probably bring Longstaff out for a game and give him, because he puts in so much effort. And again, he's one that probably needs rest. But again, is that harsh? Because I actually think he's been exceptional over recent weeks. He's played very, very well. I don't think Joe Linton had his his best game at the weekend. I think he was better than some people had suggested, where they'd said that he'd reverted back to his former self, which I thought was exceptionally harsh. But I think it's just a victim of the way that the side played. It's a tough one, because against City, you want your hardest running midfielders, and you're going to have to use that press. When we go back to the previous match at St James's, and we looked at the way that Newcastle pressed in that after the game, and it was solid press for pretty much 90 minutes, and that's exactly what you need to do, and stop them being able to play and force them to play into areas that they don't want to go. And I think that Willock's energy can do that. I think Joe Linton can definitely do that. I think I'm leaning towards probably playing those as the three. If Willock is fit enough to go. If he's not, then I think you stick with the tried and trusted three at that point.
You give him a rest. Odie, would you agree on that, mate? On the midfield three, would you make some changes, or are we quite? We've gone from being quite overstacked in there, and then obviously, letting Shelby go and not getting a replacement. Really, I'm not going to class Gordon as a midfielder at the minute. We'll talk about him in more of an attacking berth, but in terms of the midfield, are we kind of locked in with Joe Linton, Bruno, and somebody else? Is that kind of where we are with it now?
Well, Bruno's the tackle where Bruno stopped the ball from Fernandes and then went over on himself happened directly in front of me. And given his reaction, and given the speed at which other players were over to him, and given that he looked in genuine pain and as if he was crying at that point, I don't think Bruno plays at the weekend. I could be completely wrong, but I don't think he plays at the weekend.
Anderson, mate, do you want to take that? Anderson, do you think he's worth a double or not?
Not against Manchester City. God, we gave him 20 minutes against Liverpool, and look what happened. Maybe he has to come in, because maybe that situation is where it is. I don't want to judge too much on Sunday, because they played against probably the best midfielder that they're going to play against this season in Casemiro, who I think is nailed on. Considering he only arrived when he did, I think he's nailed on for Player of the Year, because the turnaround in performance of Manchester United with him in field is incredible. He makes Fred look a good player. Like, that's how good he is.
Steady on, mate. He wasn't that good, was he?
I'd also say that our midfield is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it gets on the conversation you want to have later on about attack.
Yeah.
If the system has a certain player playing on the left-hand side of midfield, or left-hand side of attack, then the left-sided midfielder has to do all of the tracking. And if they don't, then you've got an overload down your left-hand side, which, as much as you can critique Dan Burn, he didn't look like this when Joe Linton and Willock were playing in front of him. He had moments where he looked like this. He didn't look like this when that was happening every single week. The midfield three for me going forward is probably Joe Linton, Bruno and Willock, unless we buy in other people. Mark, you mentioned it earlier. The club made the decision to let Shelby go because they thought it was the right thing to do. It was the nicest thing to do to keep maybe an atmosphere coming out of the squad. Well, if that was the case, we could have peddled Ryan Fraser for some money, and then we might have been able to spend a bit more. Because apparently he's not even allowed to train with the under-23s anymore. So I don't know who he's training with, but he ain't training with the first team or the development squad. We've got a real problem in that, like you say, we were stacked in that position a while ago, and now we seem to be light on numbers. That was exacerbated by Bruno's red card, because the same players were going to have to play each week. And when Willock got that injury, it meant Anderson had to come in. There were no fresh legs, and I can't see the midfield changing at the minute. I think the drop off in quality would be too high if you change anyone in midfield at the moment. And I can't believe I'm yearning for it, but maybe getting rid of John Joe was an issue. Although I have to say, I spoke to someone.
Clip that, Mark.
I spoke to someone who's at West Ham Forest on Saturday. Seeing our reserves get absolutely pummeled in the last 20 minutes. I can't believe that after signing 30 different players, Nottingham Forest are still starting Jack Colback in centre midfield in the Premier League. That blows my mind. That Colback, Shelby and Chris Wood all started in the Premier League for Forest. Like, how slow must their team be?
He must have pictures of the manager in like a strip club or something called back to keep getting the game, because
the ginger peelos on a comeback.
The ginger peelo. So, Simon, just on the midfield for you, Audie makes a good point there. We'll come on to the attack in a minute, but would you be more tempted to put Joelinton into a more of an attacking left-hand side position and drop that player that Audie's talking about, and then have Longstaff, Willock, and Bruno in the midfield three? If they're all fit and firing, that is, would you be more inclined to do that, or would you have Joe in the middle of the park because he's better there? I've stumped you.
It has. It really has, because I don't know what's going on, and I can't.
Yeah.
I think what I would like to do though is bring Coel back from Hearts to give us some options on the bench, because he's
impact
been rated
player as well.
Yes. Yeah. He's been sent to Hearts for experience to build up his tolerance to like the English game, something like that, to get used to being away from the family, etc. But he's sitting on a bench. He could sit on our bench.
It was Darlow at Hull, as Audie said.
Yeah, but we don't miss Darlow. So but Coel, he's like he's number 5 in like 442's recent article of the top 10 promising youngsters coming up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I didn't expect him to be like number 5 or something. So so they usually get most things right. They do. So I'm just like, well, why is he sitting on a bench? I'd like to see us bring some of our players back, because we need those options.
It's not a bad shout. I mean, I think when I look at our bench in particular the weekend, I shudder when I see people like Matt Ritchie and Jacob Murphy coming on. As much as Murphy probably had our best shot, as everybody says, but I mean, Matt Ritchie coming on, I mean, he shouldn't be anywhere near our team. He should be, either playing for Plymouth or Guile or something like that. You know what I mean? Or Motherwell or Dundee or something. He shouldn't be anywhere near Carling Cup. Carabao Cup final squad. Just that is the worst thing. That is the worst thing. I think the club hasn't managed to jettison some of this dead wood, and I know you can't really just give them off to people because they don't want them. They're on too high wages. They're too old. They're not really offering them anything in their squad. The Championship is full of a lot of young, speedy, energetic players, isn't it? They don't want old hat, like even Lascelles. I don't think Lascelles is a Premier League centre half anymore. I think he's a Championship centre half at best. So he seems to be getting praised because he got 2 yellow cards for stopping people taking throw-ins. And that, for me, I want more from a squad player than that, really. But yeah, it is frustrating. I think bringing back Qual is a good shout, Simon. I think if these loan deals aren't doing what they're meant to do, Matty Longstaff when he was at Aberdeen as well, you need to be able to bring them back. There should be a pullback clause to say, look, you're not doing what we asked you to do with that player's development. We'll bring him back in. He's straight back in the squad. As you rightly say, on Sunday, if he'd been in the squad, instead of Ritchie, for example, could his legs have caused some problems for Manchester United towards the back end of the game, adding some pace and some threat. So yeah, I would definitely like to see that. But we'll transition into the attack, because this is the juicy one we all want to talk about here. So we've all talked about Callum Wilson. I'll just chuck my thoughts on this in straight away. Wilson was a passenger. I love Eddie Howe, but I think you got that wrong. I think his loyalty to that player blindsided him a bit in the final. And I think, I'll come to Audie in a minute because I know he's chomping at this, but Isak for me was the best choice of the two, hands down. And I think Eddie got that one wrong. And I was so disappointed with Callum Wilson's performance. Mark, you referenced the ball from Longstaff, which was just, that was crying out for a centre forward to make a move. But Audie, when is this Isak Wilson argument going to be handled and dealt with? Is it this weekend against City, or is it going forward in maybe the Wolves game or easier games where Isak could have more of an impact? Do you think Eddie's already made that decision now, or is he going to stick with Wilson?
Well, he changed formation to bring Isak on Sunday. He went 4-2-3-1, which he probably thought was to control Man United on the counter, like to stop Fernandes just having acres of space where he could have the ball and look to pick out Rashford, pick out Weghorst, pick out Anthony. I do think, and we haven't really touched on it, but it shows Man United's advantages financially when they can replace a £100 million winger with a £75 million winger, and we can bring on Jacob Murphy, Matt Ritchie. It's a bit of a difference, sadly. And not so offensive, Matt Ritchie, so don't come around and kick me house storing or whatever.
Too old now. You can't get his leg that high, mate. You're all right now.
I don't know about that, mate. I've seen him kick some corner flags in my time. I would say that in attack, Isak does need to come in. I thought he played pretty well as the lone front man and dropping in to cover Maxi's non-tracking against Liverpool when we were down to 10. I thought he was hooked with 20 minutes to go. I'll be honest. I thought he was hooked with 20 minutes to go for Wilson so they could check if Wilson was fit enough to even go to the final. I am fairly convinced that Callum Wilson is either suffering from long COVID or the after effects of COVID or of another illness that he's picked up, because since the World Cup, before the World Cup, he got that. Do you remember he got that injury? And he came back on against Chelsea to play the 15 minutes, having just been announced in the 30-man World Cup squad, and then he made the cut. Now, since he hasn't had the World Cup as a tether at the end, he's not been on top form. He did make the goal for Isak against Fulham, so I'm not saying he hasn't been. And he scored against West Ham, took a chance brilliantly. I thought that was him back. Took that chance up.
Should have had 3 though, really, shouldn't he? In all fairness, a sharper Wilson has 3 that game.
But yeah, a sharper Wilson definitely got the second one. Doesn't let the defender get back for the second one. The problem is that I think I asked you before. So sorry, I'm letting in secrets. We see each other just before the thing starts. I asked you before if you had any stats on Alan St. Maximin running up blind ollies at Wembley. I'm loath to say that. I think there's a reason why other clubs aren't coming in for St. Maximin. There's a reason why they're not. There's a reason why other clubs aren't banging on with door for Miggy Almiron, despite his run of form before the World Cup. Those players will need to be replaced and improved. Callum Wilson needs to be replaced and improved. Callum Wilson was a brilliant goal scorer for the 2 years under Steve Bruce because he was an incredible finisher. He's also, and we don't really mention this often enough, he's made of glass. Like 3 or 4 or 5 games in a row, and then he's out. And it's like, okay, right, we have to get used to it. Now, Isak's not had a good run of injuries, so I'm not suggesting that all of a sudden we've found the solution. But before I start my Alexander Lovin full time, the guy showed us at Anfield what he can do. And there was no Callum Wilson in the team that day, and there was no Alan St. Maximin in the team that day. And he's played against them twice. But I've got to be really, really honest. He's the only centre forward I've seen regularly make Virgil van Dijk, across those 2 games, make Virgil van Dijk look an ordinary defender. And I think Isak is a real player with loads of potential. And you don't spend £60 million on someone to replace him with Callum Wilson. You just shouldn't. Like, it sounds horrible. You just shouldn't do it. And if they want to go with 2 up front, and someone mentioned, I think it was Roger, mentioned in the comments about change of formation. If you want to go with that, okay, that's fine. You have to completely change your system. But we would then need to bring in Gordon as the left-sided midfield player. And then we need to make a decision about what we do on the right side of midfield. And is that 9 attempts and 5 completed dribbles?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it from Maxi.
I think that's unbelievably generous to what I saw, but I can't argue with Opta's stats.
That's So 9 attempted dribbles, 5 completed, 42 touches, 15 accurate passes, 0 key passes, no crosses, no accurate crosses. As much as he looked lively, St. Maximin did absolutely nothing in the end because there was nothing at the end of it.
And can I just add, as my final thing, sorry, I don't know about Seema because we were both at Wembley. After he got Dalot booked, I didn't see him get the ball and run at Dalot once before half-time. I didn't see him do that. And that was such an obvious thing to get him to do. And he just stopped. He's coming inside all the time. Sorry, I'll stop now.
Simon, just on that point with Maxi first, and then you can give your take on the Wilson Isak thing. Is Audie right? Did he just not commit Dalot after that yellow card?
I know, didn't Man United take him off?
At half-time, I think it was for Wan-Bissaka, who played much better against him because he's very good one-on-one, Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah. See, Maxi is creative. He's more... I don't know. He's frustrating.
So would you keep him in then? Would you keep him in for these changes we're talking about? Does
I
Maxi
would
stay
keep him in. I
your
would give him a shot and one more shot. Yeah, I think I would keep him. I think we've got quite a few new players. Like, we haven't seen enough of Gordon. We haven't seen. Someone put a comment on earlier about, if we keep chopping and changing, we're never going to find our own, to find our way.
Rhythm. Yeah,
our
I think it was
rhythm.
Roger,
That's it. Yeah. I think we need to make the changes because it's not working. And you know what? I don't care what changes Eddie makes, but you need to do something. So I'm all for just completely throwing, because at the moment, everyone knows how we play. And everyone knows what to expect. They know what our set pieces are going to be like. They always know Trippier. They can read us like a book. They don't have to do like a BL thing or spying on our training ground. Do you know what I mean? They know it. We've made absolutely no change. And again, as much as I love Howe, but you've got to bring some changes in. You cannot be stagnant in how you play football.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I've
gone on a rant.
That's okay, and this is what the whole show's for. And Isak Wilson argument, where do you sit on that?
Oh my God, Isak, man, he's just the lad, isn't he? Sorry, yeah, his movement is amazing. Like, just I can't. It's just beautiful to watch. The
pace, the pace, and the commitment of the run as well. His runs are very intelligent. He sucks players in, and he spins them, and he goes, and they can't get him. Wilson can't do that, can he? Wilson tries to hold the ball up, but it's not sticking to him. It's bouncing off him at the minute. He's not. It's just not working, is it?
Isak, I think, is an intelligent player, and I think the thing is, with the way he plays, you think he's not doing anything, but he's everywhere. He's like,
he wasn't Sunday. He looked brilliant on Sunday, I thought, when he come on.
Isak has got so much more potential, and I think we do need to mix the squads up just to make sure that we find our best combination, because right now we've lost it, and people are going to be unhappy, but as a manager, you've got to accept, you've got to be able to handle that. There's no loyalty when it comes to football. We're here to win a football match. Do what you need to do, pal.
I totally agree. I think it's some big decisions Eddie has to make, Mark. I mean, I pretty much know your opinion. I think we talked about it on Monday. Isak or Wilson, just give me the one name, mate.
Play Alexander Isak, for God's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, I think when you've got a striker like Callum Wilson that is massively, massively out of form and out of fitness and stuff, he's 1 goal in his last 15 games. When you are not involved in so much of the play and you are carrying him, he's not involved in any of the build-up. I mean, bar the odd occasion. I think the Fulham game was probably the exception to the rule. I think he had 8 accurate passes on Sunday. He's not involved in any part of it. And when you're not making the runs to get into the position to score the goal, you need to be pulled out of the firing line. Isak offered so much more in the 45 minutes he was on the field. And he just looks the much lively play, the much more likely to get into the positions to score. And he needs a run now. He's fit. I'd pull Wilson, give him time to recuperate from whatever the hell's going on, because he, as already said, he's not right. He hasn't been right since just before the World Cup. He looked bright for England, but since then, I mean, that was a 10-15 minute spell.
It was a cameo,
Other than
really,
that,
wasn't it?
Yeah. He's been absolutely dreadful. So I think, pull him out of the firing line. I think the other way as well. I think Anthony Gordon has to come into the side. Of the others,
for Miggy,
well, that's where I was going.
Ask that question. Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I think Miggy needs a time out for a little bit. It's become so. I said the phrase one-dimensional so many times this week. It's unbelievable. I've become predictable. I think you need something else. I think Maxi probably gets an opportunity. Again, he was exceptional against City at St James's Park. He possibly has the option or the chance to play in that sort of manner again, because City will play high. He has the ability to go sort of in behind them. He has the pace to trouble their fullbacks as well. So that does he take his opportunity? Again, his stats aren't very good as well. I think he doesn't have an assist or a goal since the Southampton win. And I know he's been a bit part player since, but he's not looked like producing an awful lot in that time either. So I think he's the one that stays. I think Anthony Gordon is the one that comes in for Miggy. I would certainly drop Miggy to the bench and give him a game out. Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, a little bit of a tangent, Audie. Just I know you were talking about the Botman before we come on. I think Derek's comment there, I think maybe a little bit unfair, Derek, to Botman, because I think you said rightly so, Audie, he was having to leave his position to cover the chaos that was going on Trippier and Shaw's side, wasn't he? So maybe that's a bit harsh on Botman.
And also, he was having to cover for Dan Burn, who got done the first 5 or 10 minutes, got done 2 or 3 times by Anthony, and Botman was having to go and cover for him as well.
So he's
Man United also hard.
Yeah.
No, but Man United also hard, and this is something that we need to look at. They had midfield runners every time they got the ball. Every time. There was no, I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to wait, and then the other two can go on. And Longstaff's ball across, if you look at it, there's only Wilson and Maxi in the box. Yeah. Right? There's no midfield runner coming in on the back of it if it gets half clear to the edge of the line. Miggy's kind of stood doing whatever he does halfway between the corner flag and the 18-yard box. But
he was headless on Sunday, Miggy, in my opinion. He was headless. I don't think he had any real threat in the game.
Yeah, but the one time someone tried to play him in, Trippier slid him in down the side of Luke Shaw, and he's on his right foot, and we all know his right legs are standing. So, exactly. I've got to, we're not playing, and this is because we were overperforming massively before the World Cup. It was a 15-game sprint, and we were brilliant in it. We are now regressing to the mean, sadly. However, there's time to turn it around, because from now on, we're only really going to be playing 1 game a week most weeks. So
the fatigue will lighten a bit, hopefully, with the players. Just quickly on Miggy, mate. Sorry, Mark. Just quickly on Miggy, Audie. Would you drop him as well for Gordon? Would you go for that?
I'd drop Maxi, but I know that's not popular with everybody. But I'm sorry, Alan St. Maximan isn't an Eddie Howe player. He never will be. Yeah. He can't be, because he just doesn't work hard enough, and he does what he always does. He got tackled once on Sunday. Got tackled once quite hard, and that was it. That was his game done.
Yeah. And fair dues. Right. Mark, just quickly before we end with Simon's take on it, mate. What were we going to say there, Mark? Quickly?
No, I was just going to jump in. He's talking about one game a week. You actually get into April. There's 7 games in April.
April's heavy.
So you actually end up playing the 2nd, 5th, 8th. Then it's the 15th, 23rd, 27th, and 30th. Right. So there's a lot of fixtures to cover in that 1 month.
That squad is hammered in April, mate. That squad is hammered.
It's going to be tough. And you pick up a knock in 1 game. You could miss 2. You get Jolinton gets a couple of games suspension out of that. All of a sudden, that squad looks very, very, very light again.
But again, it's the failure in January. Simon, just finishing up with you on the Miggy point of view. Would you drop Miggy for Gordon, or what would you do? Would you bring Gordon in?
Gordon has to start.
I think so. I think he deserves a chance.
Gordon, like Isak, just there's a flare of genius in there, and whoever Eddie drops, but those 2 have to start.
I agree. I totally agree. I think the freshness needs to be there. We've got energy, we've got pace, we've got something. I mean, the little cameos of Gordon, those 2 through balls he's hit to Wilson, which both of them he's fluffed, by the way, if anyone's watched that, because he's completely knackered. I think he definitely deserves a chance to come in, give Miggy a rest. He's got the energy to come on later on in the game and maybe do something. But that's us all pretty much wrapped up for this week, guys. It's been a brilliant episode. Thank you so much for all the guys who've been on tonight. Thank you so much, everybody in the comments. Really appreciate it. It always helps the episode flow. As we mentioned at the start, if you've just found us tonight, consider clicking the subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. Loads of room for you on Evermore. As you can see, it's all full of chat. And we don't hide away from putting your comments up. We love to see what you guys have got to say about Newcastle United as well. And if you can, do us a favour and like the video. Mark will be happy that I've remembered that this week.
Thank you.
It always helps the channel. Thank you, mate. There you go. It always helps the channel grow. And we'd just love you to come and join us for some more Newcastle United chat. Let's keep supporting that team of Call United. Massive game at the weekend. City coming up. Chance for the lads to bounce back. Let's hope they do it. So from us, it's see you later, and we'll catch you next time on Evermore.
Take care, guys.